eight-sided building, and it probably was built by the Byzantines, who were conquered by the early Arabs, and they were famous for this shaped building. You can see the beautiful marble, and you can see the beautiful tiles, the Armenian tiles, and as well as very ancient script of Quranic verses that are circling the dome and, of course, the sides of the building. These are Quranic verses also about the night journey of Muhammad. You think he really went there? And a proclamation that is proclaimed 4 times, I've been told. I don't read Arabic. That is from the Quran that says God, and of course they are mentioning Allah. God is not a God, they say, that he should have a son. This is a tremendous proclamation, and we understand something very, very deep in the Muslim misunderstanding of God the Father. They misunderstood the love of the Father. They misunderstood that the love that the Father has for the Muslim world, as for anyone else on the face of the earth, is the same love. It can never be increased, it can never be decreased. It is the only solid things in your whole life is the love of the Father. Now understand, in the Quran, Father is not mentioned. Love is not mentioned. This is not the God that you worship. Do you understand? So when they make this proclamation, you can see very clearly this deep rejection and this misunderstanding of God's election. God's election towards the Jewish people was that he could come and bring blessing to all nations. The purpose of the Jewish people was a vessel through whom he could bring salvation to all mankind. That is not rejecting anyone. That is loving everyone. But understand, it goes way back to the time of Ishmael. It goes way back, this idea that God had an election and there is a promised son. Isaac was the promised son. Remember, the Muslims believe Ishmael was taken here. So there's lots of borrowed and added traditions. But above all, when I think of this amazing building, and architecturally it is an amazing building, with a real 14-karat gold roof. How many of you have gold roofs where you come from? Understand that as beautiful as this building is, the proclamation coming out of this building is as anti-Christ as you can possibly make. This is a proclamation on the place where his throne will sit, where the bride will sit with him. The city will be there as the lampstand, and he will be the light in the midst of that amazing city. Remember, the New Jerusalem will be centered here. This is the epicenter, the final finish line of that entire love story of God's to bring Jesus and the bride, the marriage, and the coming of the kingdom to a place on earth. And we call that kingdom. What does kingdom mean? Dominion of the king. So we're going to have a king, he's going to have a dominion, and he's called us to be part of that dominion. Isn't that exciting? Understand this, the Lord has an address. Now, if I had an address and someone was sitting there, even with a beautiful house, proclaiming that I didn't have an address on the face of the earth, don't you think you would want to remove them? Don't you think you would want to come right down here and finish this whole discussion? I was just talking with someone. When someone sees this golden dome on TV, immediately what do they think? They think Jerusalem. Do they realize what this building is proclaiming? Do they realize what the Muslim world is saying about this place? Do they realize the world's in conflict? And do they realize the great long suffering of God himself? Chuck said yesterday, the Lord is wanting to take his seatbelt off and say to the Father, let me go. I want to go down. He will straighten up this misunderstanding. Remember, we talked about there's realities, and that's what we're looking at, and then there's realities behind realities. Now, the Word of God says that He has a resting place. He has chosen it. It is Zion, and nothing will stop that election, that choice. So one day, what we're looking at today will look very different, won't it? Won't it? So, I just want to say one more thing about the Muslim world. We talked about how they had this misunderstanding about the love of the Father. This deep rejection is something that you as prayer warriors can pray into. This need to be accepted. The Father has accepted them. But they are suffering from a tremendous misunderstanding and great rejection. So, if that gives you help for the days ahead to pray for the Muslim world, please pray for them.